Have you ever been stuck in an argument where both partners feel like, I'm right, I have the best solution to this, and I don't know why you're arguing with me? Or you're arguing about a past event, and we just kind of argue about what happened, even though both of us were there. But you said this, she said this, and then that happened, and so I said this, and it's just this constant vortex of defending ourselves, criticizing the other person's actions, and just kind of this terrible cycle. Have you ever been there?
You see, what's happening is a lot of couples have unhealthy ways of trying to get their needs met.
Right.
The need, though, generally is for safety, appreciation and validation, and then for security and stability. And those needs, they all come from our attachment. This is kind of emotionally focused therapy language for those that are wondering. It comes from Sue Johnson, and we use a lot of EFT principles in our work with couples. But anyway, those needs are actually healthy needs for that security and safety and validation and appreciation. But we just go about them sometimes in unhealthy ways, trying to get those needs met.
Sue Johnson, in her book, Hold Me Tight, gives the acronym R, A-R-E, to kind of help us understand the emotional part of our connection. Because we have a connection. We both need to feel certain things, right? We both need to know that she's accessible.
So that's the A.
The A. Accessible. Responsiveness. So accessible, will she be available for me when I need her? We've seen a lot of couples come in, and some of their difficulties or complaints are, when I was sick, when I was in bed, this person, they turned their back on me.
Yeah.
They weren't there. They failed to recognize me and my need, and they turn their back, and that feels like a big, huge rejection. It's a break in the attachment. So this is a big one. The next one would be responsiveness. So when I reach out, will the other person respond to me? Will they acknowledge me? Will they, be there for me? And then the last one would be engagement. Will this person hold me tight? Will they be there and be close to me? Will they fulfill my emotional needs when I need them to be there?
Yeah. So if these three areas of needs are met, then the bond is safe. The bond is secure. But the bond gets broken, that bond of attachment, when those needs are not met, or when we don't know if those needs will be met. Sometimes it's just the unknown that creates that anxiety.
Right. We see this a lot happen when people have been hurt in a previous relationship really bad, like cheated on or abused. And so it's very difficult for people that have had that experience with their attachment, right? Their husband, their caregiver, and then they enter into another relationship, and it's like, well, this happened already. I'm not sure if I can trust, even though there's no evidence whatsoever that this person's going to hurt them. Their current spouse or their current caregiver is going to hurt them. They still have difficulty trusting because their ability to trust, their emotional connection has been challenged before.
Yeah.
And that's very difficult.
Well, and in terms of brain science, they have neural pathways that have formed in their brain that tell them what to expect next, because it's basically they've been trained to think that way because of the trauma, the abuse, or the unmet needs. And so they're expecting those needs to continue to be unmet, and yet they yearn for them to be met. And so it's this clash, right? It's I expect them to not be met, but I really want them to be met.
Right. Well, they hold them at an arm's length. No, you can't get close. You can't. But please love me.
Right. So John Gottman says that distressed couples become overwhelmed by negative emotions and trapped in constricting cycles of interaction. Because there are these fears and uncertainties about getting those needs met. And so you're just in that negative cycle of interaction, pulling for those needs to be met, but in unhealthy ways. Sometimes it's passive aggressive. Sometimes it's a critical jab. And then sometimes it's shutting down to try to stay safe when you think you're being attacked. So isolating or withdrawing. I think Gottman calls that stonewalling. And then sometimes it's defensiveness. So when, someone asks something of you, but maybe it's said in a critical tone or with critical words, you defend back, like, well, you did this. And, so you start just being critical back. That's a form of defensiveness. And then contempt is another one, like lots of eye rolling or acting like you are the best or superior in some way, belittling. And contempt is actually the only one that we've mentioned so far that is a huge predictor of divorce. The others are quite normal, even though we want to reduce them. But contempt is one that, 80% of the time, if there's contempt in the relationship and it remains in the relationship, most likely that relationship will end in divorce.
Let's slow this down for a second. Let's look at our own marriage.
Okay. Didn't know we were going to do this.
So studies show that, and just anecdotal, what we've seen with our counseling, that most of the time the man is the defender and the stonewaller. So defending is more of a counterpunch, right?
Yeah.
So she's telling me something that I did wrong. I'm like, well, nuh-uh. And then I tell her, well, but you. So that's defensive.
And then typically the woman is the one that's more critical. And so she's the one that's, nagging. You hear that term a lot. And so these are not true of every male-female relationship, but they're true in most.
The vast majority. And
it's true in ours. And so you really want to be aware of your own, we call them hallway monsters. And we have a reason behind that.
Right.
We won't share here in this video.
In our seminars, this is how we teach it.
Yes.
So be aware. So the four horsemen that Gottman calls, stonewalling, defensiveness, criticism, and contempt. Those are the four. It's good to know, what do? What does your cycle look like? Here's a little extra piece. So you could think of it as the more I blank,
so whatever that is, so the more I criticize, and then
the more I blank, so the more I defend. And the more I defend,
then the more I defend back.
Right, and then criticize.
And criticize some more.
So after a while of doing this, we could start like stonewalling, right? I'm sick of talking about this and I walk out. So that would be stonewalling, or just shutting down, flat affect. I don't talk.
Right.
I just shut all my emotions down. Please be quiet.
Right.
So that would be stonewalling, and that's not a very good habit to get into.
Yeah. Well, none of these are good habits to get into. But we do want to normalize it for you, that those first three happen in quite a few relationships. We just want to make sure that for every one negative interaction, we have 4 positive interactions to kind of balance that out.
So that entails you being positive and being, spotting the good, looking for the good. And this is such a big topic because arguments bring up so many different facets, right, to talk about. But in this video, look at what you do. Look at, when she responds in that way, kind of to make it a little bit more like you could think about it. When she responds critically, how do you feel? What do you feel? Because, when I respond defensively or I am critical back, I feel a certain way. So I see it as, that was just disrespectful. She didn't treat me right. That's not right. And so then I come back with this emotion of, I feel frustrated. I feel anger. Anger is the emotion that you feel when someone crosses the line, right? She crossed a boundary that she shouldn't have crossed. So then I respond back with defensiveness, and that's normally cloaked, and there's some criticism, and no, it's you, that you're the problem, right? And then she feels, wow, he's not being very sensitive
or loving,
he's not being
gentle.
Very loving,
yeah.
And so I need to let him know about that.
Yeah. And so then I feel maybe hurt or maybe even anger back because I feel like he crossed the line the opposite way. And so recognize what you're feeling as well. So identify that cycle. When I blank, then you blank, and then I blank. Kind of maybe just go back and forth 2 or 3 times to see what that cycle is for you. And then also put the feelings in there. When I blank, I feel this way. And then you blank and you feel this way. So then you blank back and I feel this way. So being aware of the cycles will help you identify it in the moment. And you might be able to say in the moment, hey, we're in one of those cycles.
Yeah. And that, if she does that, when we're in an argument, hey, we're in one of those cycles, I'm sorry for whatever. That's a repair attempt.
Yeah.
So people try these repair attempts sometimes, and people just are in the moment of the cycle, and they just bulldoze over it. So that person's trying to make amends. They're trying to slow it down. They're trying to, okay, let's sort this out and stop what's going on. So recognizing the repair attempt is going to be paramount at finding, okay, let's find a solution or find a way to just slow this down, come to an understanding, and enjoy each other again that day, instead of carrying this over for months or weeks or whatever, whatever happens. So identify this. The more I blank, the more you blank, the more, and maybe look at, do I make repair attempts during these to slow this down, to stop the cycle, so you guys can get on a loving and respectful cycle. And
sometimes repairing could just be calling a timeout or a breather. It doesn't have to be like interrupting the argument and going, you know what? I'm good. I love you, and I'm not even upset.
That could be stonewalling.
That absolutely could be stonewalling. So don't be fake about it.
Yeah.
You might need to just call a timeout and then come back to it, and then attempt the repair then.
Yes. So. And also, one last thing. Make sure you don't try to point out the cycle you're being critical.
Yeah.
You may have this conversation maybe on a date or a while afterwards. So there's some separation between the argument that you had, if you've had an argument recently. Have an argument when you guys are both in a good place. And set a time maybe for it. That way you guys could come to an understanding of what's going on and identify it and then take action.
Yes. So we hope this is helpful to you. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out. You can leave a comment on the video, or you can reach out to us personally. Shoot us a DM or send us an email. We'd love to connect with you and help you out with it.
God bless.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.